And welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and P. Bush. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. The Bears are back, 2-1, tied atop the NFC North, and Khalil Herbert's looking like a monster. So typical Bears rushing attack. What I tell you, fellas, man, they're going to put up a lot of rushing yards, and they dropped 285 on the Texans. Absolutely brutal. Great offensive line in the run game. Too bad Fields can't throw a ball. So there's my weekly Bears recap.
The Bears.
Oh yeah, football this weekend, man. Regression back to the mean, man. It was a beautiful highs of highs, man. I never seen so many tutties, man. The tutties are back for my guys, man. I think within a 10-minute time frame, 3 of my starters got touchdowns. So when that happens, you cooking, man. Regression back to the mean, man. I'm back on the highs of fantasy football. Highest score in the home league, boys.
Nice, dude.
Highest score, man. It's about damn time my team
Great
showed
feeling.
up. After 2 garbo weeks, man. 2 disrespectful weeks, man. 99 points, man. That is disrespectful.
For sure. I had a pretty good week. It was kind of tightly contested till the I guess you say 425 window. Then, I think the 820 window, Denver defense came in, gave me 17 points. Coasted, didn't have to think about the Monday night game. It's the best feeling ever when you have the game in hand, and then it's like Monday night, so you can just rest and really enjoy the game. So, Shout out to I guess you would say the league that I have the most money in. So, shout out to that league. But we will be talking fantasy in the second topic. Right now, we're gonna get into week 3. We always do a weekly recap of what games kind of stood out to us. And P-Bush, I'm gonna start with you.
Oh, man, this was a interesting week. I'd say there were a lot of scary moment injuries. There were a couple lingering injuries. You got Swift having some shoulder issues. You got Dalvin Cook with some shoulder issues. But, man, this Bills-Dolphins game, man, what did we talk about last week?
Yeah.
Going to be one of the best games this week, and we got a butt punt and all, man. Sharman was tweeting at the dude. I mean, it was just a funny moment. Tua had that really – I don't know if you guys saw his concussion scare. But when he was like wobbling, getting up, like right after that one bad hit, yeah, man, it was just brutal to watch. He comes back in. Luckily, they didn't have to go with Teddy for the rest of the game, and Tua didn't do what he did last week. But in week 3, he was efficient, didn't make too many mistakes, and kept them at 3-0. Man, I mean they're 3-0. They're atop the NFC or AFC East, excuse me, and Josh Allen and that Bills offensive coordinator, man, looked frustrated at the end of that
Dorsey,
game. Yeah. So, that was a fun game to watch, even though it wasn't as high scoring as I think some people thought it might be. But we got a good division matchup on our hands coming down to the wire as we get later in the season.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even with like the scoring of the game not being as high as I thought, the pacing of the game was really, really fast pacing. Like I feel like the pacing of the game just never felt slow. The field goals, the ending, man, everything about it, man. It was a drama. And my guy, props to the Dolphins, man. Just props to them. With a new head coach, man. McDaniels, man, doing a hell of a job incorporating his speedsters out there with Tua, making Tua look pretty good out there. So shout outs to McDaniels for getting it done. Started off 3-0, and it was a pretty tough schedule too. Like it wasn't no cakewalk schedule.
No.
Like it wasn't a cakewalk schedule. Like the team I'm gonna bring up is the Ravens. That's my favorite team to watch right now. Because Lamar Jackson right now, no contract and all. RB1, QB1 right now, man. This dude is putting up some historic numbers, man.
MVP.
Like, dude, it's actually incredible seeing this dude run. I remember, Sean, you mentioned that he might not be as aggressive this year running the football without a contract. Nah, this dude just out there running like a madman. It's insane to watch him fly, man. No fear, man. No contract, no insurance. This dude just out there trying to win football games. Like him and Mark Andrews, they got that special connection at the tight end position, man. Mark Andrews, shout out to my boy. 2 tutties, man. 2 tutties, 80-plus yards, man. He's been a dominant red zone target for Lamar Jackson. And my, oh, man, Lamar Jackson's rushing ability, man. I'm just watching him, and this guy's going for MVP.
Yep.
This guy doesn't have a guaranteed contract past multiple years, and this dude might win MVP for the second time this year. Because out of the candidates right now at the start, you got probably Lamar Jackson number 1, and probably you got to put Jalen Hurts up there number 2 right now with the way that they've looked so far in the step he's taken. But I feel like Lamar Jackson right now, man, even though with that bad loss against Miami, man, I think he's number 1 right now in the MVP race, man, because the dude's playing like a running back again and an MVP caliber quarterback. Because if you look at the running back room, J.K. Dobbins, coming off multiple, that one ACL injury, man, he looked decent. But the guy I remember as a rookie, man, that dude I thought had a legitimate ability to be like a 3-down back, but he's still trying to recover from that catastrophic injury. So
I think he'll get there.
You think he'll get? He needs 1 more year. He needs 1 more year to fully recover from these catastrophic knee injuries. Unless you're James Robinson, who's like a genetic freak of nature.
Achilles, yeah.
Finally,
the dude's a freak of nature out there. Like this dude's like AP, man. Except this is a lot more impressive. Torn Achilles, which is the worst injury in sports. So I got a shout outs to him, man. Got a shout outs to James Robinson.
For sure.
And that Jags offense.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Literally about to transition into Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very impressed with them. I know Justin Herbert came off. I guess they say his ribs were a little bit injured. He played. But, I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he was the number 1 pick for a reason. He has all the physical tools. So I was never out on Trevor Lawrence, but I think a lot of people wanted to see how he was going to take his progression in the second year. And it's starting to look like that he just needed an adult as an NFL coach. That's what it just seems like he needed. Doug Peterson, he's been there. He's done that. He seems like he has commanded that offense, and so does Trevor. But I also got to shout out Christian Kirk. He's like a legit number 1 for them.
Yep.
He's a legit guy. Like, you may not think it with him being like the 5'10", 5'11" guy. He's like a slot guy. But no, he's an all-around receiver, him and Zay Jones. I think that's a nice 1-2 punch. And, in that game, Trevor looked really comfortable making the throws, throwing out routes, doing all that type of stuff. So, it's early. It's still 3rd week. But I think with the AFC South and the other teams that are in that division, it's not crazy to say that Jacksonville could win it. And I think going off the pedigree of him being the number 1 pick and him having some weapons to work with also the running backs, and their defense is always going to be solid. I think the number 1 pick on the other side of the ball is playing well enough. And I think he's just going to continue to get better. But I was really impressed with the Jacksonville Jaguars because, my Chargers pick, I love their defense, but you couldn't tell they had a defense on that Sunday, how Trevor was moving the ball up and down the field on them. Like
Joey Bosa, too.
Yeah.
Getting injured in that game.
Yeah, that's tough. I still like their D-line a little bit. Secondary is always, I think, feisty and able to compete, when you got Derwin and Asante back there with JC. But I kind of just like how they played. I think the one thing that's going to be interesting is as the season goes on, are you going to get anything out of Travis Etienne at all? Or is he just going to be like the backup to James Robinson? Because if he comes on and becomes like, maybe their 3rd down back and does a lot of explosive plays or something like that, then that really puts them in a new level of like, okay, maybe they can make the playoffs. But, it's a wait and see approach. But there were one team that I was just like, surprised. And I think it's just more because of the score. I just didn't think the score was going to be that out of whack for me personally. But
that tackle loss, Slater, I think is his name, for the Chargers, out with he tore his bicep tendon or something like that. I mean, you could argue he's a top 5 left tackle in the league, young dude, and that's protecting Herbert. I mean, he was getting attacked a lot. He wasn't able to play the deep ball routes because he didn't have the time. That could be affecting guys like Mike Williams. They really need Keenan back, and they really need to get Eckler going. He's probably been one of the bigger busts at where they were drafted this year. So that's the Chargers need to fix something, but at the same time, I don't know. The AFC West hasn't been up to our expectations this year.
Certainly has not.
Yeah, certainly has not. I think there's one team, the Raiders. I don't know if we want to talk about that real quick, but Derek Carr just. The amount of, I know we always joke about it, but his throwaway, he always throws the ball away, right? And you consider it to be a smart play. Man, it just makes his completion percentage just look absolutely horrible. He couldn't get Waller and Devontae going at all. Mac Hollins somehow just comes out and drops an absolute dime piece of a game.
One hit wonder on that one.
Yeah, but their defense didn't live up to it. They allowed Derrick Henry to have his best game of the year. I think he had about 85 and a touchdown on not too many carries, but Tannehill did just enough. And those are both teams that needed to win that game, in my opinion. Yeah. And the Titans just did a little bit more. Man, that Raiders team.
Oof. Man, I just think about Devontae Adams. Like, is he having regrets of going to the Raiders?
He is.
I feel like, because the thing was, he just didn't want to deal with the whole Aaron Rodgers situation, the uncertainty of that situation. So he's like, I'm just going to go to Raiders, man, play with my boy Derek Carr. And he's going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. Man, stop it, Devontae, man. Like, Derek Carr's a nice quarterback, man.
No Hall of Fame.
But he's closer to Kirk, he's closer to Kirk Cousins than Aaron Rodgers, man. Like, he's in that Kirk Cousins
for
tier,
sure.
That middle tier. Like, he's a nice average quarterback. But oh my Lord, man. But he got those moments he look a little below average, man.
And they can't get Jacobs going. I know he was dealing with an illness, I think, last week, but man, he just had his typical 65 yards, 4 or 5 yards a carry, no touchdowns. They just can't really seem to get it all clicking. And props to the Titans defense. I thought they played Waller really well because he was kind of on the upwards trend, in my opinion, at the tight end position. So if you can hold Devontae to 6 catches and 30 yards, even though he scored, that's a win.
Yeah, he don't have the I don't think there's any, for all the talk about them being, I guess you could say, this brotherhood with them playing at Fresno State. And like Zeus said, just trying to, I know it's off season, you're talking your guys up and all that stuff. We all understand that, but come on, man. Like, there's no comparison with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae and I guess you could say Derek Carr. And I just don't think the connections there, like on the field. I think the one thing about Aaron Rodgers and what he did was he was able to just, I guess, adjust routes because he's an elite quarterback to, I guess, Devontae's liking. And I kind of first guessed this. I just always thought that Aaron, I think we just lost Zoo, but I always felt like Aaron was just going to be able to get Devontae in the best positions.
Yep.
And you kind of saw it with Aaron in the game Sunday. Like, he brought in Romeo Dobbs, who was a guy I got stashed deep on my bench, so I'm excited about that.
In a 14-teamer, I would hope so.
Super nice, but he just is able to get guys, even though Romeo is not Devontae, but he's a guy who could maybe ascend to make up for I guess some of Devontae's yards and catches and all that type of stuff. He's just able to do that. So for me, it's like I think Devontae, or I wouldn't say Devontae, but I think Aaron is just a better type quarterback. And I don't know where the Raiders go for him because I don't think it gets easier. Plus, the defense has been surprisingly not as good as I thought it was going to be. And that's the one thing that I thought maybe if they did have connection issues in terms of trying to get on the same page, Devontae and Derek Carr, the defense could hold them up, but that hasn't happened. And it doesn't help Darren Waller dropped that one right by the end zone that ended up being an interception. That was tough. I know he's going to get blown up, but still, got to catch that.
Man, that disconnection issues, man, spreading that Derek Carr virus is affecting my internet right now, man. Man, my internet threw a pick right there, man. Disconnecting like that, man.
He threw it away.
Embarrassing, man. Absolutely embarrassing, man. Doesn't live up to the hype right now.
So that's one team we're going to monitor. We're definitely going to monitor the Raiders. Like you said, being 0-3, that doesn't, project well for you making the playoffs. But stranger things have happened, so we'll see. Switching to, I guess you could say, fantasy. It's week 3, whatever. We're going into week 4, but we want to talk about some of the stock up, stock down guys because we kind of got engaged in the first couple of weeks of some guys who have outperformed what they've done and some guys who are trending in the, I guess you could say pits of hell in terms of how they should be playing. So, Zoo, I'm going to go with you. Who do you think is your stock up guy right now?
For me, man, it was too obvious this year, man. My ride or die this year was Saquon Barkley, man. My ride or die this year because I still remember it. ESPN pre-draft rankings. They have him go in the 3rd round, man. I still remember that. 28 overall in PPR scoring formats, man. I'm just like, man, ESPN, man, I gotta love him because you put that mindset into other people in your draft leagues, man. They're like, oh, maybe we can get him later on, so that you come in the 2nd round and swoop him. Because I thought he was a 1st round value this year that you could have gotten the 2nd or 3rd round if you're with a bunch of newbies. You get him in the 3rd round. So Saquon Barkley, man, he has looked tremendous. He looks like he's completely healthy. Like, you see the way he runs. It reminds me of his rookie year. His yards per carry has been extremely high, plus 5 yards per carry, because he always gets that little run, man. Like, he reminds me a lot of Adrian Peterson. Like, sometimes he runs, gets a little 2-3 yards, but then he just has that burst, man. That burst, that one little juke, boom, 40-yard rushing touchdown, man. Yeah. His cuts, man, that touchdown that he got last year against the Dallas Cowboys, that was all Saquon, man. It wasn't like the offensive line gave him a big hole. That was him creating something out of nothing. Because you saw how frustrated he was because he was just averaging like 2 yards a carry against this Dallas defense that is freaking legit, man. Like their pass rushers, man. Holy cow. Daniel Jones was like about to die that game, man. I swear to God, I felt bad.
He pulled it through, kind of.
Yeah, he pulled it through. Like, but the amount of times that dude was under pressure was like, I give props to surviving that because that is a hard defense to play against. But then Saquon Barkley unleashes in that. This dude's the number 2 running back in fantasy football right now. This guy's a true 3-down back. This guy was a first-round pick, top 5 pick, elite talent. He's back. People always forget him. I'm telling you, the regression to the mean, baby. Last year, 1 year post-injury, ACL injury, man, you got to give him a year, man. You got to give him a year. Now it's a year. It's like physically, I think it was fine last year. It was just mentally. Because last year, he even said that he was thinking about not getting injured. Like he said that. Right. But this year, he's like, I'm just playing free. And that's all you got to do. And a new head coach also helps out, too, Mr. Dable. So Saquon Barkley with the touches this year, as I said at the beginning of the year, this guy's a league winner, man. And he has not disappointed, man, because the volume. Running backs this year, man, looking a little sad for the first 3 weeks. But Saquon Barkley has definitely cashed in as RB1 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I know you already talked about him, Zoo, and I agree with you. Saquon's, for once again, a value where he was drafted this year. He's paying dividends. James Robinson, I think, is another guy like that. Massive stock
for sure.
I mean, he's going to be he's going to be a top 5 back this year, as long as. And honestly, I kind of foresee, to your point earlier, Sean, the Jags kind of doing a DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams type of, okay, now that we're up a lot, we got to get James Robinson going because that'll open things up for our offense. But once they need, they can kind of slow the game down and pace themselves. I think that's when they'll go to ATN a little bit, see what he can do in the passing game, especially. But man, my stock up here is actually a second-year wideout, man. I'm going with Devonte Smith. I think he's trending upwards.
Okay.
Game. Oof.
Yeah, huge game, making some unbelievable catches. I don't think you can really say the Commanders' defense is that great. But, they have some players on that other side, and I think he's benefiting from how well A.J. Brown is doing. All these teams, for the first 2 weeks are seeing what A.J. Brown was tearing up on the offensive side against defenses, and they're like, all right, well, we got to put a safety over the top with this guy, and it's only helping Devonte, which is only helping Jalen, and it's just going to continue to make that team better. So I think he's going to start seeing more targets. I think you could say the first 2 weeks Goddard was kind of the second option there for a little bit. And now I think Devontae's coming back into the fold. And I think he's going to make some splashes, especially for where he was going. Yeah. Now that AJ is kind of their true number one, he kind of fell off a little bit in preseason drafts.
For sure. Devontae really showed just his athleticism in that game of how he's able to just go get the ball. I mean, I know he's only like 170 pounds, but he's just he's
skinny. Yeah, he's a skinny guy, man. His frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very small, but he knows how to play and he can compete. And I think that's also a very high pick because Jalen's actually spreading the ball around. Like it'd be different if I think in that first week when we saw him just throwing to AJ, we were kind of like, how is that going to do with Devontae? But he's spreading the ball around and he's looking like a more complete quarterback. So I think that's going to really help Devontae.
Yep.
I'm staying with the receivers, not just saying this because this guy's on my team with Christian Kirk. I took him as a flyer, as a wide receiver 2-ish, 3 type guy, flex guy, thinking like, okay, maybe I can get some value here with flex. He's he's been my best receiver. And I'm very confident because of Trevor Lawrence that he's going to be my receiver 1. And it may keep me from making a trade for a receiver because I was like, I've been kind of looking down my roster, like, God, I kind of need to make a trade for like a true number 1. And it's like, I don't think I need to with Christian Kirk. Like he just continues to produce. He's like, I think his lowest scoring game was like 17 or 18 points. So for me, that's been very helpful just in terms of who I can trade for, outside of for receivers. So one thing I am kind of maybe nervous about is Zay Jones. I think he kind of maybe eats into that a little bit. And then if Travis Etienne ends up becoming better and he like maybe splits more with James, he may start taking away some of those pass catches. But right now, Christian Kirk has been really nice. One other guy that I was pleasantly surprised about because he's really been in a true split is Breece Hall. And I think he has a chance to get more carries and catches because for him splitting and not being the number 1 guy with Michael Carter being the number 1 guy, he's had double-digit fantasy, like I guess you could say, scoring games. And that's with limited reps. And I think in his last game, I think he had around 14. I think he had 13 or 14 points. And it was like he had I think like 39 yards rushing, 50 yards catching. I think he caught like 6-7 balls. But I think Brees is starting to maybe show that, look, I'm a 3-down back. He was on a lot of, because I watched that game with Cincinnati. He was in a lot of the 3rd down, I guess you could say, plays and stuff like that. So I'm guessing maybe not in the next 2 weeks, but further down the line, he ends up being an RB1. And it's going to be interesting with Zach Wilson, because Zach Wilson is,
they're not running it that much out. With Flacco.
They're not. And I'm just wondering. I do agree with your point. I think you said before, like Elijah Mitchell, I think is going to come out of the ashes and become a factor. Elijah Moore, but I'm interested to see how Zach does with the backs, because if he's able to maybe do what Joe has done in terms of getting them, I guess, equal amount of touches. Maybe that expands Brees' role. I just don't know which back is going to pop with Zach. That's going to be the interesting part, because I've won. I'm like the big money league that I'm in. I've won 2 games and lost 1. I feel like I could have went 3-0 if I kept Brees as a flex over AJ. But I don't know. I'm interested to see Brees, because Brees has a lot of upside. His ability to catch, he just looks natural. He's a running back, but he looks natural catching the ball.
Yeah.
So that's one other guy I'm thinking that will be a nice stock up. But it's all dependent on my boy Zach Wilson. It's all dependent on him.
The legend himself.
Yeah, the legend himself returns. So that's going to be one interesting point. I guess I could start with the stock down.
Yeah. There's a lot.
This one it's a lot. And there's 2 guys I kind of got stuck with, but I'm just going to go with this one, and it's Darnell. He's
Boston, man.
It's killing me. And I wonder, and I'm gonna throw this to P. Bush, because I don't watch the Bears as much, but I've just been like reading.
Sadly, I do.
I've been reading a bunch of stuff on fantasy and like seeing people talk about Darnell and his usage. Like in his last game, I think he got a couple more targets in terms of being like the number 1 option. But do you think it's because Justin can't throw the football, or are they not allowing him to throw the football? Do you think it's a mix of both?
I think they're okay. I think a lot of people were like, okay, Justin and Darnell, they had a decent connection last year.
Yeah.
I do think that because he doesn't have any help, that he gets all the attention from a secondary.
Yeah.
The only other factor might be Cole Kmet when he runs up the middle of the field. Finally caught a couple balls this past week, actually a nice one up the field. But I'm actually looking at this more of the Bears are playing to their strengths, which is their run game, like I mentioned at the beginning. Not saying the Texans are a great defense, and they do have a pretty bad rushing attack, but if a team puts 280 rushing yards up on you and it's not that great of an offensive line, that's pretty bad. And, the Bears, I think they have a great rushing attack, and they're just realizing that Fields has a better chance at them when he only runs play action, which when they do that, Darnell's just running up the fly, and they're just not there yet on a connection basis, nor do I think he's getting enough separation, because they're kind of draping all over him. So he just needs help, man. It's a tough year for him.
I'm not dropping him because I just believe in the player, but it's just it's kind of tough, because I do be looking at Justin like he doesn't throw a lot of passes, and I'm just thinking like,
no, he doesn't.
Just trying to like, I know Justin's not the physical talent guy, or like I guess you could say further along physically talented, but I do think he has tools. So I just wonder, are they just kind of like you say, play to the strengths of the team, and they're just going to limit Justin so he doesn't make mistakes, or what?
Yeah.
But
he's been messing up more. I put it more on Fields, but I also think because of how he's playing, they're realizing, okay, the only way we can really win is if we just run on people. I mean, think about it. That was the only chance they really had against the Packers on Sunday Night Football, was when they were running the ball, and they had a pretty good rushing attack against them, which the Bucs didn't do this past week. So, I think that's kind of the thing to point towards with Darnell.
Yeah, that's the one though for me.
Just that's a tough stock down. It's a tough one to say, man.
Like Mooney, he's a hell of a route runner and can catch.
He is. He's got a lot of talent. Towards the end of preseason, I foresaw what the Bears were going to do, just running the hell out of the ball, and I was like, all right, I can't draft Darnell no matter how much I might want to. Yeah. But the guy I'm going with, Zoo, I'm sorry to say it, man, and it's for the same reason every single year, man, but I'm saying Dalvin Cook. His his injuries, man, they just, I feel like even if it's not a severe injury, he's always got, an ankle that keeps him out 2 to 3 weeks, a shoulder, he's bruised ribs or something like that. So, I know you have Madison, and I think most Dalvin Cook shareholders know that and hold him for that specific reason. But man, I really think that, yes, his stock, he can still play. I mean, he had, I think 96 rushing yards on 13 carries, which is not a bad game at all. But it's just the inconsistency when he's with his health that I think is kind of forcing me to not look that way if I was to make a trade. And honestly, I'm curious to see where his value is in drafts next year. So that's it's just been a couple too many years in a row where he's having the same situations. So
yeah, as a Dalvin Cook massive shareholder this year, over 80% of my leagues have Dalvin Cook, man. It's hurting little, man, to watch him play, especially that game too where he had 17 rushing yards, man. The Vikings right now, they're just very inconsistent. They are very inconsistent when I watch them against the Packers.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
Yeah, when I watch the Packers, they looked amazing. Ugh. The game after, I'm like, what is going on? Like,
it's the Lions.
Dude, like, I'm just confused sometimes. Like, that first half was like really, really bad football. Like, the second half, they were able to bounce back. Couple of Kirk Cousins passes to Adam Thielen, man. Like Conklin, the tight end. I'm like, my Lord, man. Irv Smith Jr. I'm like, my goodness, the Vikings offense has been a lot more inconsistent than I thought, because I thought they were going to be a juggernaut initially. Maybe they got to blend with the coach a little more, man. The play calling, maybe they got to get better at that, but still haven't given up hope on the Vikings. But that Dalvin Cook stock down, man, I can see it next year, man. But give me one more year, Cook. One more year, man. Just give me one more year to get it done, man, because you're getting the volume. You're on a good offense, even though Captain Kirk can sometimes be absolutely a tragedy.
Sinking the ship.
Yeah, exactly. He's sinking the ship that he's being the captain of, man, running the ship into the iceberg, man. So hopefully Dalvin Cook gets one more run, man, because he's at the age right now, 27 years old. Like, that's like the running back age where things can start going downhill, even though he was an elite running back. So I can't even hate on that stock down, man. I can't even hate on that, man. But for me, man, it's another guy that's burned me initially right now for the first 3 weeks, man. Absolute tragedy. Allen Robinson.
I knew it.
Allen Robinson, man. I was so high on this brother this year. Like, out of like highest ownage players is Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, and Allen Robinson, man. Dude, watching him play on the Rams, man, I forget he's on the field sometimes. Like I watch him, Mr. Stafford, play, and like Tyler Higbee's the number 2 option.
Yep.
Like, Tyler Higbee is getting like double-digit targets. That little route, Tyler Higbee catches a little 2-yard dink and dunk, and he starts running. I'm like, I don't know why they keep doing that play, but they do that play a lot. And Allen Robinson half the time is like blocking. And in the red zone, he just doesn't exist. Like, you got Cooper.
He dropped that one.
Yeah, he dropped that one. I remember that. I was pissed at that. Like, and I watched Cooper Kupp play, and Cooper Kupp just looks 10 times better than Allen Robinson. He looks like the better route runner. He gets open a lot more. He looks a lot better. Like, Allen Robinson was like a 1,000-yard guy with freaking Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky. And then I'm thinking the QB upgrade this year with Matthew Stafford, he's going to be unleashed. Like, at least give me some Robert Woods numbers. Then Robert Woods was dropping like 1,000 to like 1,100 yards. Man, give me 5, 6, 7 touchdowns. And Allen Robinson is a ghost out there. Like, he is unplayable right now. I can't play him. No. Even when he got a touchdown, he only got 13 fantasy points. That's with the touchdown, man. And if he doesn't get a touchdown, he gave you 2-3 points, man. Do you know what that's called? A rounding difference, man. That point doesn't matter, man. Those points don't matter, man. Allen Robinson,
immaterial.
He is immaterial to my franchise right now. Like, so his ass gonna stay on my bench until he shows me he can get open a lot more in the red zone and be the guy that I watched in Jacksonville and the Chicago Bears. Because right now on the Rams, he looking like he overpaid. He looking like he got Kenny Galladay money, man. Paid him all that money to do nothing. That's what he's looking like right now. Because he got paid, man.
Kenny Galladay is pretty
bad. I'm like, you got
Stafford. He misses Stafford.
I'm telling you, man. You got Christian Kirk out there getting paid and balling out. And they got Allen Robinson getting paid and not balling out.
DK.
DK, you know the quarterback situation in Seattle, a little tragedy, man. But Allen Robinson, stock down, man. Stock down. I can't even look at that brother. Do you know also why, man? I drafted that man over Lamar Jackson
Ooh, that's
I remember
that's
I was like, am I going to go with my boys receiver? And I see Lamar right there in the 5th, 6th round. I took A-Rob, man. That is one of the worst decisions of my fantasy football career, man. Because I'm looking back at that. What a noob move.
Yeah, that was
A-Rob.
You know what's funny about these quarterbacks, especially the running quarterbacks? How Jalen and Lamar has been playing. It might start triggering some. Do we need to take these guys like at the bottom of the first round?
Around earlier, man. I'm telling you, man.
Like they're starting to trigger that because like Jalen, like I've 2 of my weeks I've won comfortably, but like Jalen has been a big part of that.
Oh yeah,
like he's just a monster, and outside of knock on wood injury, he just is. It's just a guarantee, and no, I mean I don't think there's no package I would trade for to give up Jalen right now. None.
No.
So
Jalen
it's just like those type
untouchable.
of quarterbacks, man. Like Josh Allen, the guys that can move. Because like I said, you got those statue. If you got those statue guys, they better have an elite offensive line, or you're gonna be toast.
Yep.
I mean, even though Aaron Rodgers, I feel like part of his struggle is because he just doesn't have like a true number one. But it's like you got to have a guy that can move, man. Like if you got that, you have a chance in fantasy. If we're specific, we're not talking about football in terms of just like how they progress down the season and win-loss record. We're just talking about fantasy purposes only. Those guys that can move, man, they are invaluable. They're invaluable.
Especially the start of this year. Like you see the points that these guys are scoring, these running quarterbacks, the Hurts, Lamar, and Josh Allen.
Crazy, bro.
They're scoring 30+ points consistently. And you compare that to like the 10th quarterback, that's over a 10-point difference. You're getting a 10-point advantage having one of those 3 elite dudes right now. I don't know if that's sustainable, especially Lamar averaging 34 fantasy points a game. But I can see these guys averaging like 20.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can see these guys averaging like 27 or 28.
Yeah.
So that is very, very doable. So if you average a 27, 28 over these average quarterbacks putting up like pretty much 17 to 19 points a game, that is a supreme advantage every week. Because right now, as a guy with Aaron Rodgers right now, I started Jared Goff last week. It was a sad experience, man.
Talk about a statue.
Dude, the epitome of a statue.
That brother needs the passing touchdowns or he's completely useless in fantasy football, man. He's completely useless because he ain't getting you much else.
Having Jalen and Lamar can allow you to have someone like me have Hayden Hurst only give you 1 point and still win comfortably.
Absolutely.
What Jalen provides. In my big money league, that's what he provides. Like you said, that's why I'm in a search for a tight end now. But we can talk about that another day. Last topic, we're going to be switching over to week 4. Like you say, NFL, interesting games every week. I wanted to ask the guys which one sticks out to them. And P-Bush, I'm going to send it to you.
I mean, might as well just keep it with the running quarterbacks, right?
For sure.
We got Bills, Ravens, man. And I talk about a marquee matchup. This is AFC Championship territory right here.
For real.
And I think that could have been a decent pick. I think Ravens are your dark horse Super Bowl team this year. That'd be up there with the Eagles.
I do have a fitty piece on the Ravens though winning it all. So
nice.
They're my ride or die dark horse this year.
Hopefully you part Lamar MVP, but maybe not. Yeah, man. I think this Bills Ravens game, absolutely. This could be a stellar matchup. I hope it's a little bit more higher scoring than the Bills Dolphins game we saw last week. I think we're going to see what Lamar's preference is in the offense when he plays against the Bills defense, because they are good across the board. And this is a team that he's going to have to know how to beat if they want to make it to the Super Bowl this year. And whichever way, whether it's through the air to Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, can he get the deep ball going to Rashad, this week? That's going to be a big tell. Or is he going to really rely on his legs, to Zeus' point earlier, and try and give you that 34 a game and rush for 120 and a touchdown? So I think this is a really good idea of how these teams are going to try and beat the best teams in the league. The Bills are going to obviously have to throw the ball, but I think they need to get their running game going. They never do it. And maybe it was the Dolphins defense. But, I do also think, and I want to see how much more the Ravens use J.K. Dobbins. I want to see if he's going to continue to get a bit more of a workload every week or if they're going to really ease him in.
Yeah, that's a terrific pick. Like for me, the Ravens this year, they've been really, really fun this year to watch. Like every single game last week had a money line, man. I bet on the Ravens. They cashed it in for me. It's a beautiful, beautiful day betting against Ravens of Lamar Jackson, man. Since you took that one, man, I'm going to put my eye on the Kansas City Chiefs versus Buccaneers, man. I look at that matchup again. Tom Brady got Mike Evans back, man, because the Buccaneers without Mike Evans, it's very, very sad. Like no Julio, like no Mike Evans last week. They had no shot. Like they signed Cole Beasley out free agency because they needed a guy to catch a damn pass.
He did nice
right now. Yeah, like compared to the other guy, like he was down to Rashad Perriman and Cole Beasley, the dude that was sitting on his couch a week ago. So Tom Brady, hopefully get Julio back next week. Mike Evans inserted back, and he's gonna get hella targets after defending his man, getting his butt suspended. So Mike Evans versus Mahomes after a devastating loss, man.
Ooh.
That one hurt because I had them in a survivor pool. I picked them over the Colts, and that knocked me out, man. Like a lot of people picked that. I'm just like, how did they lose to the Colts?
Because they didn't try and push for that field goal at the end of the first half like Mahomes wanted to.
That's the thing. Like I feel like the reason they did is because Harrison Butker was injured. So they said
trust Amendola.
They had this dude Amendola who he gone now. He gone now. Like,
he got cut.
Exactly. So like the Chiefs did not have a real NFL kicker. So I'm not gonna blame the kicker though, because holy cow, it's the Colts. This is a team that got annihilated, absolute massacred by the Jags. It wasn't even a game
in a row.
Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like they probably looked at the schedule and be like, the Colts, they got blown out. Didn't take it seriously. They didn't take it serious. And the one thing in the NFL football, anybody could win any regular season game.
Yep.
That's the one thing, man. It is actually, that's why I love the NFL so much. Because whenever you see, favorite, so obvious. Russell Wilson versus the Seattle Seahawks. Oh, easy dub. Nope. Upset, man. I'm telling you, man. Like that's why the NFL, man. It could one play, one pick, one possession could change the entire of a game. And shout out to Matt Ryan to getting it done because man, they were looking real sad against the Jags, man. So Mahomes with redemption, prime time game against Tom Brady, the guy that took a Super Bowl ring away from him. The little edge in there. Mahomes trying to take the keys of being the next great quarterback from Tom Brady after. Hopefully, I feel like Tom Brady might retire this year. Yeah. So my Pat Mahomes, man, this is time for redemption. And hook up my boy Juju a little more touches, man.
Yeah,
because that boy needs a little more targets. Because
Kelsey too.
Mecole Hardman ain't it, man. Marcus Valdez-Scantling ain't it, man.
Just Kelsey
one trick ponies.
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, some of these receivers, man, I'm looking a little doo-doo. So I'm like, get the balls to your playmakers, man. Even though Travis Kelce definitely let down Mahomes last game with that touchdown drop. Well, that was bad. That was awful.
Hurt me.
Yeah. Kelce is normally money with that too, so that was interesting that he dropped that one. But for me, it's just more so of a something has to give game, and I'm going Broncos and the Raiders. I want to see, because on each end, it's going to tell me something. It's going to either tell me that the Raiders are officially done if they lose. Like I don't think there's any coming back from 0-4. Or it's going to tell me if the Raiders win and the Broncos lose that there's an issue with the head coach and the quarterback. They just can't figure it out. And this speaks to maybe you should play your preseason games if you're going into a new situation. Maybe maybe this is the lesson we're learning in this. Because that Broncos 49ers game was probably some of the most ugly football I've ever seen. That was such a bad,
beautiful punting.
Such a bad game to watch. It was so bad. And I know Judy got hurt last week with his shoulder and stuff, so maybe he wasn't 100%. But it just feels like he has no connection with none of the guys. He just doesn't have any connection with any of the players on the team.
Cortland Sutton, baby. Cortland Sutton.
A bit.
He's been eating.
Yeah, he has. And I'm not
tight end. No.
He doesn't have any. No, I think I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. But I know you're talking about. And don't even get me started on the running backs. I was just gonna say Devonte. I'm done with the running backs. Like I still have faith in him because I just get mesmerized every time he touches the ball. He looks so explosive, so I'm just not gonna quit him. But I think Russell needs to come into this game with, you could say, the Raiders in a wounded type state. He needs to come out and at least show that, look, even though it looks crazy and we're not looking as good on offense, we're still 2-1. If they come out and have a statement game, and he shows some cohesion with all of his receivers and backs and stuff like that, then maybe the Broncos will look like a team that can compete further down the line. Yep. But this is do or die for the Raiders. They have to get this game. They have to. If they don't get this game, their season, I would say, is over. Because
are they at home?
See it. I think they are.
Nobody pop champagne.
I'm not sure.
They are
for real. 425 game. I don't know. It's probably not going to be a type of big game of the week type stuff, because I think is it the Mahomes? No, that's 8:20. So it might. I don't know. But I just want to see who's going to make the first move in that game. Who's going to make the move to be like, look, we're not losing this game, whether it's the Broncos or the Raiders. So that's what I'm.
Who has more desperation?
Yeah, hopefully you think is the Raiders, but who knows? Who knows?
But for how bad the Broncos have looked, man, they still got 2 wins.
Yeah, it's like the Bears.
They look. The defense looks really good, but the offense. Yeah. And like the Hackett guy, then he hire a guy from the Ravens to help him with a little timeout situations, play calling, man. Like you can't really like Nathaniel Hackett, man. He hired a guy to help him with timeout situations, man. Because the dude's not a head coach.
He's Aaron Rodgers' buddy.
Aaron Rodgers' drinking buddy, man. That's Aaron Rodgers' drinking buddy. I don't know what other buddy, man. Ayahuasca buddy too, maybe, man. Because Jesus Christ, it looks like he's high when he's coaching sometimes, man. Jesus Christ, Hackett. But Russell Wilson has to take control of the offense.
That's what I was just about to say. Russell's been in the league long enough. Yeah. He needs to take control of that offense. I know and for good reason we should be killing the rookie coach, but Russell's been in the league long enough, and this is what he wanted.
Yeah.
So figure it out. You have the weapons. You don't. Yeah. It's not like it'd be different if he was playing with, I don't know,
and a good defense.
Yeah, a defense that got me 17 points last week. So shout out to the Broncos.
Yeah.
But we'll see on that. Like I say, Russell does have the talent. We're just going to see if he can make it all mesh. Like you say, NFL is here. One thing that I do have to mention is the NBA real quick. Like it's crazy how fast it felt like the finals was like a month ago. Yeah. And now it's here again with Media Day. So that was very interesting. Nothing really, crazy happened. Well, it did happen, but we're not going to talk about it. But, the NBA had their Media Day and they showed a bunch of, that'll be a whole nother podcast we'd have to get into a part 2.
Maybe
if we do Patreon or something one day, we'll get into all the dirty details of the Ime Udoka situation.
Bullheaded late night.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Bullheaded after dark.
After dark, yeah.
For sure. But like you say, just had to mention the NBA with their Media Day, so that's fast approaching in October with the season. So be on the lookout for that. But right now it's full force with the NFL. Make sure you subscribe to our Instagram, bullheaded_pod, TikTok, bullheaded864. We're on all the DSPs, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. If you have any questions, make sure to hit me in the DMs on those said apps. And for me, Zoo, and P-Bush, we are out.